The Force is light and full of shadows.
Before we dive in, check the link in the description if you want exclusive Timelines members-only videos you won't find on YouTube, all on our Patreon. The Tribunal moves through hyperspace like a cathedral through a dream. From the outside, it would look serene. A Venator-class Star Destroyer, 1,137 meters of Republic gray, cutting through the white tunnel of hyperspace at standard cruising speed. No alarms, no battle damage. No distress signal broadcasting into the void. Just a warship doing what warships do, carrying soldiers home from a war that everyone believes is almost over. Inside, it is quieter than it should be. The 332nd Clone Trooper Company has been awake for 36 hours. The Siege of Mandalore ground them down in ways that blaster wounds and Bacta tanks can fix, and in ways that they cannot. They move through the corridors in small groups, not talking much, cleaning weapons that are already clean. Their orange-marked armor, painted in honor of a Jedi they follow who is no longer technically a Jedi, catches the strip lighting along the corridor walls and throws it back amber. Most of them will be dead in 4 hours. They don't know that. Ahsoka Tano is meditating in her assigned quarters on Deck 5 when it happens. She is 17 years old. Her mantrals are still growing into the full sweep they will eventually reach. Her leku don't yet carry the length that will one day make her silhouette unmistakable across a dozen star systems. She sits cross-legged on the narrow bunk, back straight, hands open on her knees, breathing in the slow, disciplined rhythm that Master Plo Koon taught her when she was small enough to sit in his lap. She is trying to quiet her mind. She is not succeeding. The Siege of Mandalore is still in her hands. She can feel it, the particular muscle memory of a lightsaber vibrating against Maul's blade for hour after hour. She keeps almost touching the memory of his voice in the tunnels. The war is a lie, little Jedi. You and I are the same. She had rejected that. She still rejects it, but it costs her something to hold the rejection. She breathes. She lets it pass. And then, it does not announce itself. There is no sound, no flash of light, no sensation that she would later be able to describe to anyone as dramatic, because it is not dramatic at all. It is the opposite of dramatic. It is the most ordinary feeling she has ever had, which is what makes it so completely wrong. It is the feeling of putting on a coat she has worn for 30 years and finding that it still fits. One moment, she is 17, sitting in the shallow water of her own inexperience, aware of the Force the way a person is aware of the air they breathe, present, necessary, unremarkable. And then she is not 17, not inside. The memories do not arrive like a flood. They arrive the way dawn arrives, gradually, and then all at once, and suddenly the darkness before it seems impossible to remember clearly. 30 years of a life she has not yet lived press themselves into the spaces behind her eyes with a patience that is almost gentle. She remembers Mandalore. She remembers leaving Mandalore. She remembers the chip, and Rex's eyes going wrong and running, and the dead clones stacked in the cargo bay, and Maul's escape, and the crash, and burying armor in the snow. She remembers what comes after, all of it, every year of it, the Inquisitors, the Ghost, Ezra, Sabine, the world between worlds, standing at the edge of a portal watching Anakin become something that the word wrong is not strong enough for. The years of wandering with white blades and no name to carry them under, the years of being Ahsoka who carries the dead with her because there is no one left to share the weight. She sits very still. Her hands are shaking. She looks down at them, small hands, young hands, the hands of someone who has not yet acquired the particular economy of movement that decades of survival teaches, and she understands exactly what has happened and exactly how much time she does not have. 4 hours, the older part of her mind says, in the voice that 30 years of hard learning built. Maybe less. The order comes during transit. You have 4 hours before every clone on this ship tries to kill you. The 17-year-old part of her, still present, still real, sitting just underneath like a photograph under glass, wants to panic. She can feel it rising, the adrenaline spike, the urge to run or shout or reach for her lightsabers and ignite them right here in the room, against nothing. The older part doesn't let her. Breathe, it says. You know exactly what to do. You've spent 30 years wishing you could do it, so do it. She breathes. The first thing she does is reach out, not physically. She plants herself on the bunk, closes her eyes again, and extends her Force senses outward from her own body in the particular way that she spent years after Order 66 perfecting. the way that feels less like reaching and more like listening, like pressing an ear against the hull of the universe and hearing what it says back. She feels the ship around her, every living presence on it, rendered in the Force the way sound is rendered in air, unique, textured, individually distinct. The clones are the loudest collective she has ever felt in a contained space. 300 and something heartbeats, each one carrying the particular resonance that she always associated with brothers, with soldiers, with men she loves. And inside each one of them, quiet as a stone at the bottom of a river, is the chip. She has never felt them before. Her 17-year-old self never knew to look. But 30 years of knowing what they are, of living with the guilt of not having understood sooner, that knowledge reshapes her perception. She can feel them now. The cold interruption in each warm life force. The tiny foreign hardness embedded in the soft tissue of men who never agreed to carry it. Her jaw tightens. She keeps reaching. She finds Rex. He is on the bridge. She can feel him clearly. His signature has always been distinct to her, even within the collective sameness that clones present to an untrained sensor. He feels steadier than the others, somehow. More solid. She doesn't know if that's real or if she is projecting it because she needs it to be true. She finds Maul, further away and deeper in the ship in his containment cell. His Force presence is a cold red knot, furious and compressed, like a star that has been reduced to its most essential violence. He is not unconscious. He is never unconscious. He is waiting, the way he always waits, with the patience of someone who has survived worse than this and is prepared to survive worse than whatever comes next. She will need to deal with him. Later, she finds something else, rippling toward the tribunal through the fabric of hyperspace, still distant but moving fast with the particular urgency of command-level encrypted transmission. She feels the order coming. Not the words, not the frequency, but the disturbance in the Force that 30 years later she still can't fully explain to anyone who wasn't sensitive enough to feel it. The moment before a galaxy breaks, the held breath before the scream. She has seconds, maybe minutes. Not hours. She was wrong. She does not have hours. She is off the bunk before she finishes the thought. Her lightsabers are already in her hands. She doesn't remember reaching for them, which tells her that the muscle memory is older than 17, that the body she is wearing has already begun learning to trust the person she has become. She clips them back to her belt without igniting them. She will not need them. Not yet. Not if she is fast enough. She pauses at the door of her quarters with one hand on the panel. The corridor outside is quiet. A pair of 332nd troopers she doesn't know by name are moving away from her, headed toward the forward section. Their boots ring against the deck plating in perfect synchronization, the unconscious march rhythm that clones develop after enough time together. Orange paint on their pauldrons. She watches them go. They don't know, the older part of her says. Neither does Rex. Not yet. The chip fires, and they don't experience it as someone else taking over. They experience it as their own conviction. Don't hate them for what they're about to do. Hate the people who built the switch into them. She has spent 30 years trying to take that advice. She steps into the corridor and turns toward the turbo lifts. She has one objective, one place she needs to be before that transmission completes and the tribunal becomes the most dangerous corridor in the Republic, the medical bay. Rex, she starts to run. Behind her, in the depths of the ship, in the encrypted silence of a signal that no one aboard can hear, the Chancellor's transmission reaches its destination. Every inhibitor chip on the tribunal receives it simultaneously. The order fires, and above her, on the bridge, she feels it through the Force like a hand closing around a flame. 300 lives flickering, dimming, reshaping themselves around a single imperative that feels to each of them like righteousness, like duty, like the most natural thing they have ever wanted. She feels Rex resist. For 3 seconds, 4 she feels him fight it, the way a man drowning fights the water. Not enough. Never enough. Alone. She runs faster. The turbolift is 30 meters ahead of her. Ahsoka runs. Not the flat-out sprint of panic. The older part of her mind won't allow that, won't allow the body to outpace the brain. Because a panicked 17-year-old running blind through a ship that is about to turn hostile is a body waiting to happen. She runs the way she learned to run on a dozen worlds, after Order 66, in corridors and canyons and burning cities. Controlled, economical, every footfall placed with the quiet precision that keeps boots silent against deck plating. She is counting. Rex fought it for 4 seconds in the original timeline. The older part of her mind supplies this with the flat clarity of a debriefing. He'd been warned. He knew it was coming. He's still almost lost. Without the warning, without Fives' research in his head, he wouldn't have lasted 2. She hits the turbolift panel with her palm. The doors are already open. Someone used it recently. A trooper heading up to the bridge, probably, summoned for the shift change that will never happen now. She steps in, punches Deck 7, watches the doors close. In the 3 seconds of turbolift descent, she reaches out again through the Force. Rex is still on the bridge, still upright. She can feel the wrongness spreading through him like cold water, the chip signal threading through his neural architecture, rewriting what he wants, turning loyalty into a weapon. He is fighting it. She can feel that too, the trembling resistance of a man whose fundamental self is pushing back against something that feels exactly like himself. He won't win that fight, she knows. Not alone, not without a reason to hold on to. The turbolift opens on Deck 6. Wrong deck. She punched wrong in the dark. She is already moving before she finishes registering the error, stepping out into a corridor that smells of hydraulic fluid and recycled air and the particular metallic warmth of a ship running hard. Deck 7 is 1 level down, accessible via the maintenance ladder at the end of this corridor, or the secondary turbolift another 40 meters aft. She hears boots. Around the bend ahead, not running, not yet, but moving with the new purposefulness that Order 66 gives to men who are already soldiers. 2 troopers, orange-marked, helmets on. They come around the corner and see her, and the hesitation lasts exactly 1 second before the first one raises his DC, 1-5. She doesn't reach for her lightsabers. She reaches into the Force. The technique is not something her 17-year-old self knows. It is not something most Jedi know. It is something she spent years developing in isolation, in the long quiet after the Purge, when she had nothing but time and grief and the pressing need to survive without announcing herself, with a lightsaber's glow. It is a kind of resonance, a frequency she learned to project outward through the Force that doesn't command so much as settle, like pressing her palm flat against agitated water. Both troopers stop. Their blasters lower by 2 inches. Their body language shifts from the coiled readiness of men about to fire to something slower, something confused. One of them tilts his helmet as if listening to a sound he can't locate. It costs her. She feels the effort of it land across her temples like the beginning of a headache. At 17, her body doesn't have the reserves that her mind now knows how to draw on. She can do it. She just can't do it indefinitely. Stand down, she says, quietly, calmly. The voice she uses is not the voice of someone asking. They stand down, blank-eyed behind their visors, present but suspended. She walks past them, finds the maintenance ladder at the corridor's end, drops through it to Deck 7 without using the rungs. The medical bay is 80 meters from the base of the ladder. She covers it in seconds. The corridor here is empty. The medical section runs with a skeleton crew during transit, most of the surgical staff reassigned to rest rotation after Mandalore's casualty rate burned through their working hours. The strip lighting is lower here, set to the dim amber of off-peak ship's night. The medbay doors are closed, but not locked. Not yet. She pushes through them. The room breathes antiseptic and recycled oxygen, and the faint metallic undertone of surgical-grade equipment on standby. Surgical pods line the port wall, 6 of them, white and sealed. Their displays dark. The AZI series droid is dormant in its charging alcove in the far corner, folded into itself like a sleeping insect, its single large photoreceptor dimmed to amber standby. She crosses to it in 4 strides and puts her hand on its chassis. "A ZI 3, she says. "Wake up. Authorization Tano Ahsoka. Commander 332nd. The droid unfolds with a soft, pneumatic sigh. Its photoreceptor brightens from amber to white, swiveling to fix on her face with the particular attentive blankness of a medical unit processing an unexpected activation. "Commander Tano, AZI 3 says, its voice carrying the precise, slightly anxious inflection that makes it sound perpetually concerned for your well-being. "My records indicate this is not a scheduled activation. Are you injured? Your biometrics suggest elevated cortisol and not injured. I need you ready. There's going to be a patient in the next few minutes, and the surgery is going to be fast." She is already moving to the nearest surgical pod, running her hands along its control surface, pulling up the neural imaging array configuration. I need you prepped for a micro-extraction. Hypothalamic region. Object approximately 1 to 2 millimeters. AZI. 3 processes this. 1.5 seconds. That is an extremely delicate procedure, Commander. The standard prep protocol requires... We're not using the standard protocol. I'm going to be guiding the extraction directly. You're going to manage the physical instruments while I handle the targeting. Can you do that? Another pause. Shorter, the droid's photoreceptor tilts. Yes, that is within my operational parameters, though it is highly irregular. Who is the patient? Commander Rex. The droid processes this differently. Something in its posture, she has always found it faintly remarkable that medical droids develop posture. Shifts. Commander Rex is not currently listed as presenting any medical condition requiring. He will be, Ahsoka says, in about 3 minutes. She feels it then, a shift in the ship's emotional texture, the force going jagged and sharp above her head in the direction of the bridge. Voices she can't hear from here, but can feel, carrying the particular flat affect of men executing an order they believe in completely. The sound of boots changing their pattern overhead. The small mechanical sounds of a ship beginning to reroute its internal protocols. The lockdown is starting. She reaches into the force and finds Rex again. He is moving. Not toward her. Not yet. He is moving with the others, with the chip's current, doing what it tells him, and the part of him that is Rex, that has always been Rex, is screaming inside that movement like a man locked in a room that has his face on the door. Hold on, she thinks at him, knowing he can't hear it. I'm here. I know what I'm doing this time. She goes to the medbay's door panel and overrides the lock from the inside, a simple maintenance code, the kind that every ship has, and no one changes because no one ever thinks they'll need to lock a medical bay from within. The door seals with a soft, final sound. Then she turns, closes her eyes, and does what she came here to do. She reaches into the force with both hands flat against the nearest surgical pod's surface, and she listens. Not to the ship, not to the troopers above her, not to the distant cold nod of Maul in his cell. She listens specifically and only for Rex, for the texture of him that she has known since she was a child playing soldier on Christophas, and didn't understand yet what war actually cost. She finds him. She follows the thread of him through the force, past the locked-down bridge protocols, past the dozen troopers now moving with unified purpose through the corridors above, past the wrong-feeling frequency of 300 activated chips broadcasting their terrible certainty into 300 minds. She finds the door to the medical bay, and she finds Rex standing on the other side of it. The door opens. He is alone. That surprises her. In the original timeline, he came with others, came already compromised, already most of the way lost. Here he is alone, which means some part of him, the deepest part, the part that knows her voice and her footstep and the particular rhythm she taps on a helmet when she's pleased with someone's work. Some part of him walked away from the others and came here without knowing why. His blaster is in his hand, not raised, hanging at his side like he forgot he was holding it. He looks at her. His eyes are wrong. She knows that look now, has known it for 30 years. The flat, determined calm of a man whose judgment has been taken from him and replaced with something that feels exactly like judgment. The chip doesn't announce itself. That's the cruelty of it. He doesn't look controlled. He looks decided. Commander Tano, he says. His voice is even. Professional. The voice of a soldier reporting for duty. You need to come with me. Rex, she says, just his name. Quietly. Something flickers behind his eyes. A candle in a wind tunnel. You need to come with me, he says again. Slightly different this time. Not reporting. Insisting. Arguing against something he can feel pulling at him from the inside. I know, she says. I know you believe that. I know it feels true. I need you to trust me for 5 minutes, Rex. Just 5 minutes. Orders? I know about the orders. She takes one step toward him. Her hands are open, visible, away from her lightsabers. I know about the chip. I know about fives. I know everything, and I need 4 minutes and 50 seconds to prove it to you. Stand down. The blaster hits the deck. He doesn't drop it intentionally. His hand simply opens, the way a hand opens in a dream. He looks down at it with an expression she recognizes. the expression of a man who just did something he didn't decide to do, and doesn't know yet whether to be frightened. She crosses the room to him, takes his arm, guides him toward the surgical pod with the gentleness she learned from a medic on Rada, who taught her that hands that have done violence can still know how to be careful. "Sit," she says. "I've got you." He sits. She doesn't wait for a ZI. 3's imaging cycle. She places both palms against his temples. Warm skin, the specific body heat of a man who runs hot, who has always run hot, whose presence in the Force has always felt like standing next to a fire that knows your name. And she goes inward. The Force beneath her hands is like a landscape. She has learned, across decades, to read it the way a navigator reads terrain. Rex's inner landscape is exactly what she always imagined it would be if she'd known how to look. Vast and ordered. A soldier's mind, everything in its place. Loyalty, mapped in clean lines. Affection held in careful containment. The deep, stubborn bedrock of a man who has decided who he is and does not move from it. And there, embedded in that bedrock like a shard of glass and stone, cold, wrong, precisely sized, approximately 2 millimeters of something that does not belong in anything living. She has it. AZI. 3, she says without opening her eyes. Surgical laser, port access, temple adjacent. I'm going to guide you in. Commander, the standard sterilization protocol requires override standard protocol, authorization Tano, now. The laser arm extends. She guides it the way she guides her lightsaber in the dark, not with her eyes, but with her sense of what is true, of where the space is, of what the tissue around the target needs in order not to be damaged. AZI. 3 operates the instrument. She operates AZI. 3. The Force operates her. 40 seconds of the most precise work she has ever done. The chip comes free. Rex's body goes rigid for 1 terrible second, and then completely boneless, relaxed. And he draws a breath that sounds like the first breath a man takes when he surfaces from deep water, ragged and desperate, and grateful in a way that has no words. She keeps her hands on his temples for another 10 seconds and lets the Force move through her into him. Not a healing, exactly, more a settling, the way you press a bandage flat and hold it until the bleeding stops. Then she steps back. Rex opens his eyes. They are right. They are completely, entirely right, and she has to look away for a moment, because the relief of it is too large for this small room. "Ahsoka," he says. Not Commander, not General. Her name, in his voice, exactly as she remembers it. "Yeah," she says, still not looking at him. Her voice is steady. She is 17 years old, and she has been carrying 30 years of grief for this man, and she will not cry in the medical bay with blast doors about to come down on both of them. "Yeah," she says again, "we need to move." Rex finds his footing in stages. First his hands. He looks at them the way people look at things they thought they'd lost, checking that they're still his, that the fingers respond to what he wants rather than what the chip wanted. They do. He closes them into fists and opens them again, and something in his face settles, a tension releasing that she suspects he didn't know he was carrying. Then his feet hit the deck, and he stands, and the soldier in him reasserts itself with the quiet efficiency of a man who has been trained to function through worse than this. He looks at Ahsoka. She is watching the door. "How long do we have?" he asks. "Before they breach that door?" "Maybe 6 minutes. They'll try the standard override first, then the emergency code. I've blocked both." She pauses. "There's a maintenance bypass they won't think of immediately. That buys us a little more." Rex processes this. His hand moves automatically to his hip. No blaster. It's still on the floor, where his hand opened without permission. He retrieves it, checks the charge with the practiced motion of someone for whom weapon maintenance is as reflexive as breathing. "The others," he says. Not a question exactly. The way you say something when you already know the answer and are deciding how to carry it. "Yes," Ahsoka says. 1 word. He nods once, a small motion, and she watches him fold that knowledge into himself and lock it somewhere he can function around. She has seen Rex do this before. Absorb catastrophe and keep moving. It is one of the things she has always loved about him, and one of the things that has always broken her heart. "Where are we going?" he asks. She turns from the door to face him. "We need Maul." Rex stares at her. The silence lasts 4 full seconds. "Commander," Rex says, in the specific voice he reserves for moments when he is being extraordinarily patient with someone who is being extraordinarily unreasonable. Maul, the Sith Lord, currently in restraints in the brig. Yes, the Sith Lord who just spent the last several days trying to use you as a bargaining chip and then tried to kill half my company during his escape attempt. He didn't try to kill them exactly, He did try to kill them exactly, Commander. I filed the report. Rex. She says his name in the tone that stops that particular kind of argument. The one that means I hear you and I need you to hear me back. We need a ship. The hangar bays are going to be locked down in the next 10 minutes, and every trooper on this ship who isn't standing in this room is going to be actively trying to shoot us. Maul's cell is on the path to the ventral hangar. He knows this ship's layout. He's had nothing to do for 3 days but study it, and he is the only other person on this vessel who has a reason to survive that doesn't involve executing Order 66. Rex considers this for exactly 2 seconds. I hate this plan, he says. I know. I want that on record. Noted. Let's go. The maintenance corridor from the medical bay runs aft through the ship's port spine, parallel to the main corridor but separated from it by a bulkhead that was designed for cable routing and emergency access. It is narrow, single file, low ceiling, lit by bioluminescent strips that glow a dim green, the color of something unhealthy. Ahsoka goes first. Rex moves behind her with his blaster raised in the low-ready position of someone who genuinely expects to need it. His boots are quieter than they should be for someone in full armor. She had forgotten how good he is at this, at moving like something smaller than he is. They pass 3 access panels. Behind the second one, she can hear the muffled cadence of a trooper patrol, moving through the main corridor on the other side of the bulkhead. Boots striking deck plating in the particular rhythm that she now hears as a kind of clock counting down. She doesn't stop. She doesn't need to. She pressed her hand flat against the bulkhead panel as she walked past and let the force move outward through her palm in the same settling frequency she used upstairs. Not stasis, nothing that dramatic. Just a gentle suggestion to the ambient energy in that corridor that nothing interesting is happening here, that there is no reason to check the maintenance access. The patrol passes. Rex exhales behind her. You're going to explain how you're doing that, he says quietly, to her back. Later. You keep saying that. There's a lot of later to fill. The brig occupies a section of Deck 9, 3 levels below them, accessible from the maintenance network via a service shaft that drops straight down through the ship's aft section. Ahsoka finds the shaft in the dark by memory. Not her own memory, not exactly, but the memory of a layout she studied obsessively in the years after, poring over every recovered schematic of every ship class she'd ever been on, cataloging every route she should have taken, every door she should have gone through, every person she should have reached in time. The shaft drops 7 meters. She goes down it the way she goes down everything now, falling and catching herself at the bottom with a force cushion that costs her less than breathing. Rex takes the ladder rungs. She waits for him. The brig corridor is empty. This deck runs minimal crew during transit. 2 guards on the primary detention block, 1 more at the security station at the corridor's far end. She felt all 3 of them during her scan from the medical bay. Chips active in all 3, already reoriented, already looking for her. She reaches into the force and brushes the security station first. The single guard there, sitting at his console, presumably cycling through internal sensors looking for 2 fugitives who are not where fugitives should be. She walks him into sleep so gently that he slumps forward and his helmet makes a soft sound against the console without even fully waking. Rex, beside her, makes a small sound. I know, she says. I didn't say anything. You were thinking loudly. They reach the 2 guards outside the primary detention block. These ones are standing, alert, their DC-15s held properly across their chests. They turn when Ahsoka and Rex come around the corner and the recognition is immediate. One of them starts to raise his weapon, and Ahsoka is already moving, not toward them but through them, a burst of force presence that hits both men in the chest like a physical object and walks them backward into the wall, and holds them there, not harming them, just holding, the force equivalent of 2 hands pressed flat against 2 shoulders while she passes. Rex takes their weapons. He is careful about it. She notices that. She notices that he is very careful not to hurt them. Maul's cell is the last door on the left. It is a heavier door than the others, reinforced durasteel, with a separate power supply for the energy field inside, and the distinctive dull sheen of Beskar inlays in the frame that speak to exactly who is expected to occupy it. The Beskar is there for one reason. A lightsaber will not cut through this door. The energy field inside does the rest, calibrated to contain, to limit, to make the cell a smaller world than the ship around it. It is designed to work inward. Nobody anticipated needing it to work the other direction. She stands in front of the door panel. From inside the cell, she can feel him, that cold red knot, compressed and furious and ancient. He has felt her coming. She is certain of it. He has been feeling her approach since she entered the brig corridor. She has thought, in the years since, about what she would say to Maul if she could go back. She never arrived at anything satisfying. He is not a man who responds to satisfying things. He responds to power and to honesty. And he despises sentimentality with a contempt that she has always found, despite everything, slightly admirable. She opens the cell. Maul is standing in the center of the room, not pacing, not sitting, standing, precisely centered, like something placed there deliberately. His Mandalorian restraints are on, wrists locked, ankles chained to a floor anchor, the energy field shimmering blue-white around him at a radius of 2 meters. His yellow eyes find her face in the first half-second and stay there. He says nothing, she says nothing. Rex, behind her, says, "This is a terrible idea." Maul's gaze moves to Rex with the slow precision of something that identifies threats and catalogs them automatically. Then back to Ahsoka. "Something has changed," Maul says. His voice is what it always is, layered, resonant, carrying the specific register of someone who was broken and reassembled wrong, and has made a philosophy of it. "You feel different, you feel." He stops. His eyes narrow fractionally. "Older." Ahsoka looks at him steadily. "I need your help." Maul considers this for a long moment. She can see him sorting through the angles. He is always sorting through angles, always calculating the geometry of whatever room he's in, who owes what to whom, and why, and what can be extracted from the situation. "Order 66 has been executed," he says. "Not a question. The clones are hunting you. The Jedi are dying across the galaxy." A pause. I felt it. The shift. Palpatine's triumph settling into the Force like a door closing. His expression does something complicated that is not quite satisfaction and not quite grief. He won. "Not yet," Ahsoka says. The yellow eyes sharpen. "I need a pilot who knows this ship," she continues. "I need someone the clones won't expect, coming from a direction they're not watching. And I need someone who has a better reason than almost anyone alive to make sure Palpatine does not get everything he just reached for." Maul is very still. "You," he says carefully, "are asking me to help you." "Yes, after you spent 3 days transporting me in chains. You were going to be imprisoned or executed regardless of what I did. Right now, I'm offering you a third option." She meets his gaze without flinching. She has faced worse than his eyes. She has faced him in the world between worlds and felt what he carries, and she does not flinch from it. "Get us to the ventral hangar. Help us take a ship. And we leave this vessel before it crashes, because it will crash and everyone on it will die, and we can discuss what comes next when we are not discussing it on a burning ship." The silence holds. Then Maul says, very quietly, "The ventral hangar. I know the route." Rex makes a sound that is not quite a word. "Release the field," Maul says. "Leave the wrist restraints." "I am not." He pauses, as if the next word costs him something unreasonable. Ahsoka reaches out and cuts the energy field with a single precise push of the Force. Maul rolls his shoulders, looks at his chained wrists with the expression of someone deciding what to say about them, decides to say nothing, looks back at Ahsoka. "If you betray us," she says, "you don't get another warning." "Likewise," says Maul. Rex steps up beside her, and she can feel him not saying every single thing he is thinking, which is an act of self-discipline she genuinely respects. "Ventral hangar," she says. Maul moves to the door. The ventral hangar is 4 decks down and 140 meters aft. Maul knows the route the way a predator knows terrain, not from study, not from schematics, but from the particular patient attention of something that has been contained and has spent every hour of its containment learning the shape of its container. He moves through the maintenance corridors with the chained efficiency of a man whose legs were built from nothing and who has never quite forgotten what it cost. Ahsoka watches him from behind and thinks, he is not helping us, he is helping himself. The distinction matters, and also, right now, does not matter at all. Rex is on her left, blaster ready, eyes moving to every junction ahead of Maul before Maul reaches it. She notices this, the way Rex has positioned himself not as an escort, but as a check, keeping Maul in his peripheral vision at every turn. She does not tell him to stop. It is exactly what she would do. They pass through 2 more maintenance shafts, one connecting corridor, and a sealed pressure door that Maul stops in front of for 3 seconds, before reaching up with his chained hands and pulling a panel from the wall, with enough precise force to avoid triggering the magnetic seal. Rex stares at the exposed wiring, then at Maul. He's been planning that for 3 days, Rex says to Ahsoka quietly. At least, she agrees. Maul does not look at either of them. He crosses 2 wires. The pressure door opens. She hears the hangar before she sees it, not the hangar itself, the approach to it. The sound of a ship already running its pre-launch sequence, engines cycling through their startup register, in the particular ascending tone that means someone has beaten them here. She stops, puts her hand out. Maul stops. Rex is already stopped, already pressing himself against the bulkhead, blaster raised. She reaches through the Force into the space ahead. 3 clones. Inside the hangar, near a late gunship that is the only vessel on this half of the deck, their chips are burning hot and certain. 2 are at the gunship's boarding ramp, weapons up, pointed at nothing yet but arranged in the particular way of men who have been told someone is coming and have decided to be ready. The 3rd is in the cockpit, running the launch sequence. They are stealing the only available ship, executing, she corrects herself, following orders, getting a vessel airborne so that when she and Rex run for the hangar, there is nothing to run to. She assesses the distance, 40 meters of corridor, then the hangar floor, then 20 more meters to the ship, 2 armed troopers on the ramp, the cockpit clone visible through the forward viewport. She could do this with her lightsabers. Clean, fast, decisive. She looks at Rex. He is looking at her. In his face, she reads the same calculation she is running, the same answer arrived at from a different direction. His jaw is tight. His blaster does not lower. "I'll take the ramp," he says. "You take the cockpit." "Rex, they're going to shoot you, Ahsoka." He says it without heat, without accusation, with the flat precision of a man reading a tactical display. The chip doesn't leave room for anything else. "But they'll hesitate on me. For half a second, they'll hesitate on me because I'm in the same armor and part of them, some part of them." He stops. Continues. Half a second is enough. She wants to argue. The older part of her doesn't let her, because he is correct. "Non-lethal," she says. "I know." She looks at Maul. Maul is watching the exchange with the expression of someone watching a species of animal he finds distasteful demonstrate an unexpected behavior. "I'll stay here," he says, with the magnanimous air of someone making a tremendous concession. "You'll stay here," Ahsoka confirms, in a tone that makes clear this is not a concession, it is an instruction. She goes. The corridor opens into the hangar and she doesn't slow down. She crosses the first 15 meters at a sprint, low, using the shadow of a parked cargo loader for cover. Feeling the Force spread around her in the way she has learned to use it offensively, not as a weapon but as a veil, not hiding her exactly, but making her presence in the Force smooth and uninteresting at the edges. The way a stone in a river doesn't fight the current, just redirects it. The 2 troopers on the ramp hear Rex first. She feels the hesitation he promised. Not long, not enough for a normal person to capitalize on, but she is not a normal person and she is already moving through it before it finishes. She comes around the side of the gunship at a dead run, reaches into the Force, and lifts the nearer trooper clean off the ramp with a surge of telekinesis that deposits him against the hangar wall with enough force to stun, but not enough to break anything she can't justify. The second trooper turns and fires. She is not where she was. The bolt hits the deck where she stood, and she is already underneath his arm, one hand on his blaster, redirecting the weapon toward the ceiling, using his own momentum to walk him in a controlled arc that ends with him horizontal and the deck rising to meet him. She catches the back of his helmet with her free hand before it hits the floor. He goes still. She hears Rex's blaster fire twice, the stun setting, the lower crack of it, and then she is up the ramp and through the gunship's interior toward the cockpit, moving through the narrow crew cabin with her arms extended to catch both walls. And the cockpit trooper has heard everything and is turned in the pilot's seat, with his sidearm already up. She hits him with the Force sleep before he finishes turning. He drops against the console, boneless and quiet. She stands in the cockpit of a running gunship for 1 second, breathing, and then she reaches over the sleeping trooper and checks the launch sequence he initiated. 60% complete. She lets it run. Rex walks up the ramp 30 seconds later, Maul behind him, and the expression on Rex's face is the expression of someone who has made a decision they stand behind and will not discuss. She does not discuss it. Maul looks around the gunship's interior with the vague distaste of someone who has strong opinions about interior design. His chained wrists make his posture awkward. He has stopped letting it bother him, or he has gotten very good at pretending. "We are leaving now?" he asks. "We're not leaving yet," Ahsoka says. Both Rex and Maul look at her. She is at the cockpit console, pulling up the tribunal's internal schematics on the secondary display. Her hands move across the surface with a certainty that is not the certainty of a 17-year-old who has flown a lot of ships. Rex, she knows, will notice this. Rex notices everything. "This ship is going to crash," she says. "The tribunal. When the 332nd turns on itself in the confusion, someone is going to hit the hyperdrive during descent. The ship comes down over the surface of a moon. Everyone aboard dies." She keeps her voice level. "Everyone who hasn't been extracted from a cell dies. 300 and some men, Rex." The silence in the cockpit has a specific weight. "What are you saying?" Rex asks, each word separate. "I'm saying we have time. 11 minutes before the critical sequence begins, and we have a running ship with a working comm system." She turns to face him. "We can't save all of them. Their chips are active, they will shoot at anything that moves, and we cannot perform 300 surgeries in 11 minutes. But we can do something. We can broadcast on the clone internal frequency. We can tell them what's happening. We can't unfire the chips, but we can put the information in the air, and some of them, a few of them, might fight it long enough to reach an escape pod." She watches this land in Rex's face. He sits down on the crew bench against the cabin wall, not because he is weak, he is never weak, but because this is the kind of news that a person should sit down to receive. "A few," he says. "Yes. Not most. No." He is quiet for a long moment. Maul, with uncharacteristic restraint, stays in the doorway to the cockpit and says nothing. "We broadcast," Rex says finally. "We put it in the air. Whatever they do with it is theirs to do." "Yes." He stands, moves to the comm panel. His hands find the controls with the ease of someone who has operated this exact system 10,000 times. He pulls up the clone internal frequency, the one that doesn't route through the bridge, the one that goes directly to personal helmet comms, and he opens a channel. He pauses. Ahsoka watches him find the words from somewhere she cannot follow. "This is Commander Rex," he says. "CT 7567. If you're hearing this and any part of you knows something is wrong, if any part of you is fighting it, I need you to listen. There is a chip in your head. Not a malfunction, not an attack, something that was put there, something designed to make you feel like what you're doing is right. A breath. Find an escape pod. Get off this ship. That's an order from your commander, and it's the last order I'm going to give you. Find a pod and go." He closes the channel. The three of them stand in the gunship cabin and listen to the ship around them, the sounds of 300 men who cannot hear what Rex just told them in any way that matters, moving through corridors overhead with the absolute conviction of soldiers executing a righteous order. Maul breaks the silence. "That was," he says, and pauses, apparently searching for a word that won't compromise his entire self-concept. "Not ineffective." Rex looks at him with an expression that could strip paint. "Launch the ship," Ahsoka tells Rex quietly. He moves to the pilot's seat, his hands on the controls are steady. The gunship lifts from the ventral hangar floor, rotates on its axis, and drops into the darkness below the tribunal's keel. And the vast gray hull of the ship above them fills the viewport like a ceiling, like a sky, like something enormous and irreversible, already moving away. Behind them, in the tribunal's belly, the launch sequence she saw on the display is completing without a pilot to correct it. She does not watch the ship die. She watches Rex fly them away from it, and she watches his hands on the controls, and she thinks about the men in those corridors who cannot hear anything right now except the chip, and she carries it the way she has learned to carry all of it. Not down, not away, but forward. Always forward. Coruscant from orbit looks the same as it always has. That is the first thing that hits her. The planet filling the viewport as they drop out of hyperspace is unchanged. The same endless city sprawl, the same layered light pollution turning the upper atmosphere amber and gold, the same dense traffic lanes threading between orbital platforms like luminescent rivers. From up here, nothing has happened. From up here, the Republic is intact and the war is almost over, and the Chancellor is a good man doing difficult work. She has to remind herself to breathe. Rex is at the helm, running a passive scan of the traffic control frequencies without broadcasting their own position. The gunship is a standard late, unremarkable, one of 10,000 identical craft operating in Republic space. As long as they don't transmit a registry, they are invisible, a ghost among ghosts. Maul is looking at the planet with an expression she cannot read. He did it, Maul says. Not to either of them, to the viewport, to the city planet below that does not know yet what has been done to it. 20 years of patience. And he did it. Not completely, Ahsoka says. Not yet. The Jedi Temple, Rex says from the helm. His voice is controlled. His hands are controlled. Only the line of his shoulders tells her anything. I'm picking up emergency frequencies. The civilian bands are starting to report. He stops, adjusts the scanner. Fire. They're reporting fire at the temple coordinates. The three of them are quiet. Ahsoka closes her eyes. She feels it before Rex finishes the sentence. Through the Force, Coruscant below them is a catastrophe in real time. The living city, normally a dense and chaotic weave of billions of presences, is shot through with wrongness. Panic moving through population centers in waves. The particular frequency of mass fear that she learned to identify during the war and has never been able to stop recognizing since. But underneath that, deeper, in the place where she has always felt the Jedi as a kind of harmonic undertone, a collective resonance she absorbed so young that she stopped hearing it the way you stop hearing the sound of your own heartbeat. It is going out, not all at once, not in a single detonation, one at a time, on 100 worlds simultaneously, each one distinct, each one a specific person she may or may not have known. Each light in the Force extinguishing with the terrible individuality of a name being crossed off a list. Here, 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 she has felt this before. She has lived through the aftermath of it, spent decades carrying the echo of a massacre she experienced as a distant tremor because she was in a crashed ship on a cold moon, and didn't understand what she was feeling until later. She is feeling it now in real time, and it is nothing like a tremor. It is everything like standing too close to something that is consuming itself and not being able to look away. She opens her eyes. The temple is burning, she says. Anakin is inside it. Rex turns from the helm. Maul, very slowly, also turns. I know where he is, she continues. I can feel him through the Force. She does not explain what that feels like, what it has cost her every second since she woke up in her bunk on the tribunal, to feel that particular signature in the Force, and know what it is doing. He is not Anakin anymore. Not fully. But he is not entirely gone either. Not yet. Ahsoka, Rex says. Carefully. I know, she says. I know what I'm saying. If he's inside the temple, we're not going to the temple. She turns to the navigation console. Her hands find the controls before she finishes the decision. Not yet. Not directly. Going to the temple right now means flying a Republic gunship into a building full of the 501st Legion, which is currently executing every Jedi inside it, and trying to fight through Anakin Skywalker at the height of his fall. A pause. That's not a rescue. That's a funeral. Maul makes a small sound that might, in a different person, be agreement. Then where? Rex asks. There's someone who can reach him in a way we can't. Someone he won't raise a blade against. She pulls up the Coruscant residential registry on the nav display, cross-references it with Senate District coordinates. We go to Padme. They bring the gunship down in the lower levels, not the Senate District. Too exposed, too many eyes. And by the time they reach the lower atmosphere, the emergency broadcasts on the civilian channels have shifted from confusion to something closer to the specific terror of people who are beginning to understand that what is happening is not a crisis being managed, but a structure being deliberately demolished. Level 13. 13 is where they set down. Deep enough that the light from above is diffuse and gray, filtered through 1,000 layers of duracrete and permacrete, and the accumulated weight of a civilization that built upward for so long it forgot there was a bottom. The streets down here operate on their own economy, their own rules, their own complete indifference to what happens in the Senate District 300 levels above. Rex pulls the gunship into a maintenance bay that has been abandoned long enough for the locking mechanism to have corroded past function. He sets it down with the professional economy of someone who has landed in worse places and gets out without comment about the smell. Maul emerges behind him and looks at the level 1313 streetscape with the expression of someone who grew up on Dathomir and is thus not capable of being impressed by squalor, but is noting it professionally. "Charming," he says. "You're staying with the ship," Ahsoka tells him. Maul looks at her. "I need this ship here when we come back," she says. "I need it not to have been stolen or reported or disassembled for parts. And I need someone with it who can discourage all three of those outcomes." She meets his gaze. "You're the most effective deterrent I have." Maul considers this. She can see him weighing the angles, the ways this benefits him, the ways it disadvantages him, whether being left as a guard dog is an insult he can afford to absorb given the current geometry of his situation. "My restraints," he says. She looks at his chained wrists. Looks at him. "No," she says. "A beat. Fair," says Maul, and sits down on the gunship's boarding ramp with the chained dignity of a king receiving visitors in an unusual setting. Rex falls in beside Ahsoka as she moves into the street. They walk 2 blocks before he speaks. "You felt him," Rex says. "Through the Force. What did he feel like?" She is quiet for a moment. "Wrong," she says. The way a sound is wrong when something's broken inside the instrument making it. You can hear the original note underneath it, but the break is louder. Rex absorbs this. They turn a corner. Above them, the light through the level gaps has taken on an orange quality that is not the ambient glow of Coruscant's standard light pollution. Something above them is on fire. Something large. Is there a version of this where we get him back? Rex asks. She has spent 30 years asking herself this question. She knows the answer she arrived at in the timeline that no longer exists. She knows that answer was the wrong shape, not false exactly, but incomplete, arrived at from the outside by someone who never got close enough to try. "Yes," she says, "but not tonight. Tonight we get Padme out." Rex nods. He does not ask her how she knows about Padme. He has stopped asking how she knows things. She is grateful for this in a way that is too large to fit into words, so she doesn't try. The Senate apartment building in the upper levels is a different world from level 13. They reach it via a public turbolift that still operates because the Coruscant Infrastructure Authority has not yet received orders that would clarify for it that the Republic is over and turbolifts in Senate buildings might be a security concern. The doors opened onto a corridor that smells of recycled air and expensive nothing, the particular odor of spaces maintained for people whose entire lives are cushioned from the texture of actual air. The corridor is empty. Ahsoka feels Padme before they reach the apartment, a bright presence, fierce and frightened and not understanding yet what she is frightened of. The specific frequency of a person who is waiting for news and has begun to suspect the news is not coming. She knocks on the door. A long pause. Then, "Who's there?" "My name is Ahsoka Tano. I was Anakin's Padawan." She keeps her voice level, audible, stripped of anything that could be read as threat. "I need you to open the door, Senator. I need you to open it right now, because we don't have much time, and what I have to tell you cannot be said in a corridor." Another pause. Longer. The door opens. Padme Amidala looks at her with dark eyes that have been doing the specific work of controlled terror for the last several hours, and are very good at it. She is dressed simply. No senatorial robes, no elaborate hair, as if she shed the armor of her public self the moment the news started coming in, and has been standing in her own skin since, trying to figure out what to do with it. She looks at Ahsoka, at Rex behind her, at the absence of anyone else. "Where is Anakin?" she says. Not a question. A demand that has been waiting behind her teeth for hours. Ahsoka holds her gaze. "That's what I need to talk to you about," she says. "Can we come in?" Padme steps back from the door. Her hand, Ahsoka notices, rests briefly on her stomach as she turns. The gesture of someone who has not yet told anyone about the thing they are protecting. Ahsoka notices everything. She follows Padme inside, and the door closes behind them and above the building. Somewhere in the upper atmosphere, the Jedi Temple burns against the Coruscant sky, like the last light of something that will not come again. Padme's apartment is exactly as Ahsoka imagined it. Not from memory, she was never here in either timeline. Never stood in this specific room with its high ceilings and its view of the Coruscant skyline, in its careful arrangement of objects that speak to a life conducted at the intersection of power and genuine conviction. She imagined it from the details Anakin let slip across years of a secret he was terrible at keeping: the blue fabric of the furniture. The view from the east window, the way Padme always kept her work on the low table, spreading documents across its surface in the organized sprawl of someone whose mind moves faster than any filing system. The work is there now, half-drafted Senate documents, stylus abandoned mid-sentence, a half-empty glass of water, the small, specific evidence of a life interrupted. Padme stands in the center of the room and does not invite them to sit. "Tell me," she says. Ahsoka tells her, not everything. Not the timeline, not the 30 years, not the specific gravity of what she carries behind her eyes. That is a conversation for a different moment, for a time when there is enough air in the room for it. She tells Padme what she needs to know right now, in the order she needs to know it. The Order, the Temple, Anakin. Padme listens without interrupting. This is, Ahsoka thinks, one of the things that made her a great senator: the ability to absorb information without needing to respond to each piece of it before the next one arrives. She stands very still, and her face does the work of processing without collapsing, which is a kind of strength that gets mistaken for coldness by people who don't understand the difference. When Ahsoka stops speaking, Padme is quiet for 4 seconds. "He's alive," she says. "Yes." But she stops, finds the word she is looking for, and picks it up like something that might cut her. "He turned." Yes. Padme turns away, walks to the east window, puts one hand against the transparent steel, and looks at the orange light on the horizon that is the temple. That is 30 years of Jedi history consuming itself. That is her husband doing something that cannot be undone with an apology or a conversation, or love alone. Rex, by the door, is looking at the floor. "He won't hurt me," Padme says, still facing the window. "Whatever he's become, he won't hurt me." "No," Ahsoka says carefully, not intentionally. Padme turns back to look at her. She reads the distinction immediately, but he might not be the one making the decisions. Palpatine will be. Once Anakin has finished what he started at the temple, Palpatine is going to direct him outward, to the separatist leadership on Mustafar. And then, she pauses, "You'll send your own ship to find him, to bring him back, and he won't come back the way you need him to." The silence that follows is specific and terrible. "How do you know this?" Padme says. Not an accusation, a question with a very precise point on it. "Because I've lived through the version where no one intercepted you in time." Ahsoka holds her gaze. "I know how this ends, Senator. I know every turn of it. And I know that if you go to him alone, without what I can offer, you don't come back from Mustafar. Not intact." Padme's hand moves to her stomach again, the same reflexive gesture from the doorway. She catches herself doing it this time, and stops, but not before Ahsoka sees it, and not before Padme registers that Ahsoka has seen it. The two women looked at each other. "You know," Padme says. "Yes." "How long?" "Since the doorway." Padme absorbs this, recalibrates. "Does anyone?" "Obi-Wan doesn't know. Anakin told no one except you." She pauses. "The children are why we're having this conversation, Senator. They're why I'm standing in your apartment instead of anywhere else I could be right now. Because in the version of events I lived through, they survived, and you didn't. And I need to change that ratio." Something moves through Padme's face that is not quite grief and not quite resolution. It is the place between them, where a person decides to keep moving. "What do you need from me?" she asks. Rex speaks for the first time since they entered the apartment. "A ship," he says. "Something that won't register as military. Something that can get us to Mustafar before Palpatine's people lock down civilian travel between systems." Padme looks at him, taking his measure in the specific way she takes everyone's measure, not unkindly but completely. "Commander Rex." "Yes, Senator. You were the chip. Ahsoka got to me first." He says it simply, no drama around it. "There are others. We transmitted on the clone frequency before we left the tribunal. Some of them may have made it to pods. We won't know for a while." Padme nods slowly. "There's a diplomatic shuttle registered to my office in Bay 7 of the Senate landing platform. It has a senatorial clearance code that should still function for—" She pauses, revising. "For however long those codes mean anything." Her jaw tightens briefly. "I'll need to come with you." "Senator," Rex starts. "He is my husband," Padme says, each word measured and final. And those are my children. I am not sending someone else to the conversation that I need to have. She looks at Ahsoka. You said you know every turn of this. Does it work if I'm not there? Ahsoka considers lying. The older part of her is very familiar with the shape of this particular lie, the one where you tell someone they're not needed for their own protection. She has told it and had it told to her and watched it fail both times. No, she says. He needs to hear it from you. I can get close to him in ways others can't. But the thing that might actually reach him, that's you. That's always been you. Padme straightens, moves to a cabinet near the far wall and opens it, extracting a travel bag with the efficiency of someone who has packed for emergency departure more than once in her life and has opinions about what matters to take. I need 5 minutes, she says. We have 4, Ahsoka says. Padme takes 4. The Senate landing platform is 3 levels up and exposed in ways that make Ahsoka's shoulders tighten as they cross it. The orange light from the temple direction has deepened in the time they were inside. It is a different quality of light now, the kind that comes from something that has been burning long enough to stop being an emergency and start being a fact. The sky lanes above them are disrupted, traffic rerouted, and in the distance she can hear the particular engine signature of military gunships moving in coordinated patterns that mean a search perimeter. That means someone is already looking for things that have gone wrong with Palpatine's plan. She feels them before she sees them. 2 Senate Guard units, blue-armored, stationed at the entrance to Bay 7. Not their normal post. They've been repositioned recently, their posture carrying the specific tension of men who have been given new orders in a hurry and are not entirely sure what they're guarding against. Palpatine's reach is faster than she budgeted for. She touches Rex's arm, stops, pulls Padme back against the shadow of a support column. The bay is covered, she says quietly. 2 guards. They've been repositioned in the last hour. Rex assesses the distance. I can take them? Without raising an alert? A pause. Probably not. Padme straightens beside her. I can, she says. Both Ahsoka and Rex look at her. I'm their senator. Padme says, with the particular dry calm of someone whose entire career has been the art of walking into rooms that don't want her and leaving with what she came for. Give me 30 seconds. She steps out of the shadow before Ahsoka can decide whether to stop her and crosses the platform toward Bay 7, with the posture of someone who has never in her life approached a door she didn't intend to go through. Ahsoka watches. The guards register Padme's approach. One of them steps forward. The challenge is standard. She can read it from here in his body language even if she can't hear the words. Padme responds. Whatever she says it with the specific authority of a person who has stood in the Senate chamber and moved governments with her voice. And the guard's posture shifts from interception to uncertainty, to a kind of reflexive deference that his new orders are fighting with his years of training. 20 seconds, he steps aside. Padme looks back across the platform, a small, precise tilt of her head. She's terrifying, Rex says, with what sounds like genuine admiration. Yes, Ahsoka agrees. She always was. They cross the platform and Base 7 opens around them. A mid-sized diplomatic shuttle, white and clean, Naboo design elements in the curves of its hull. Functional, unassuming, the kind of ship that moves through checkpoints on the strength of its credentials, rather than its weapons. Rex takes the cockpit, Ahsoka takes the co-pilot seat, Padme settles into the cabin behind them, and Ahsoka feels her through the Force. Controlled, frightened, resolute, the 3 things occupying the same space in her the way they always seem to in people who are genuinely brave, rather than just unaware of danger. The shuttle lifts from Base 7. The Senate building falls away beneath them. The temple, across the city, is visible from this altitude, a pillar of smoke and light against the perpetual glow of Coruscant's skyline, rising into the upper atmosphere with the patient permanence of something that has been burning long enough to stop needing fuel and start feeding on itself. Ahsoka does not look at it for long. She looks at the navigation display, at the coordinates she enters without needing to look them up, because she has known for 30 years exactly where Anakin went and what waited for him there. Mustafar. Jump, calculated, Rex says. Jump, Ahsoka says. The stars stretch. The temple disappears. Mustafar announces itself before they arrive. Through the viewport, still 20 minutes from orbital insertion, the planet is visible as a smear of red-orange against the black. Not a point of light like a star, but a wound. Something that looks less like a world and more like a consequence. The lava flows are visible from this distance as dark lines against the incandescent surface, the crust of a planet that never finished deciding whether to be solid. Ahsoka has been here before, not in this timeline, not in this body. But the memory of it is in her the way all her worst memories are in her, not stored somewhere she can close a door on, but present, ambient, the way scar tissue is present in a healed wound. She came here after, in the other life. She stood on Mustafar's surface years later on a different mission and felt the residue of what happened, and understood, finally and completely, that some events leave marks in the Force itself, not just in the people who witness them. She is about to prevent the event that left the mark. She is not certain she can. Rex is running passive scans from the pilot's seat, his hands moving across the console with the focused quiet of someone who has stopped talking because the situation ahead of them has moved past the territory where talking helps. The scans come back clean. No Republic presence in orbit, no blockade, no official traffic. Mustafar is not on anyone's priority list tonight. Everyone who matters is on Coruscant, watching the Republic become something else. Everyone except Anakin. He's already on the surface, Ahsoka says. She has been feeling him since they dropped out of hyperspace. The signature she has known since she was 14 years old. Since the first time she reached out through the Force toward her new master and felt something enormous reach back with more warmth than it knew what to do with. That signature is here, on this burning world, and it is nothing like warmth now. It is the specific cold of something that has burned through its own heat and come out the other side as something harder. But underneath it, underneath the new architecture of it, she keeps reaching, finds the thread. He's still in there, she says, quietly, mostly to herself. Padme hears her from the cabin. She doesn't say anything. Ahsoka feels her presence intensify slightly, the forward lean of someone hearing what they needed to hear and bracing for what comes next. Rex sets them down on the landing platform of the mining facility. It is the only flat surface on this part of the planet. Everything else is rock and flow, the geological violence of a world consuming its own interior. The facility itself extends from the edge of a cliff face, its structure partly carved from the rock and partly suspended over a lava river below, connected by walkways that were not designed by anyone who intended to feel comfortable on them. The landing platform is empty except for one ship. Ahsoka recognizes it, a Nubian cruiser, Padme's ship, the one that brought her here in the version of events Ahsoka carries in her memory. It sits at the far end of the platform, its engines cooling, which means it has not been here long, which means the timeline has shifted. In the original sequence, Padme arrived here alone, Obi-Wan hidden in the cargo hold, which she didn't know. In this version, Padme is beside Ahsoka on a different ship, arriving at the same destination from a different direction, and the Nubian cruiser on the platform means someone else brought it here. She reaches out through the Force and finds the answer immediately. She finds something else first. In the lower levels of the facility, a stillness that has settled over a room where there was recently motion, recently voices, recently the specific violence of a mission being completed. Anakin's purpose on Mustafar is already done. The Separatist Council is gone. That part of the war ended before they landed, in the worst way it could have ended, and the weight of it hangs in the Force like smoke over the lower corridor. She finds Obi-Wan above it. Obi-Wan is here, she says. Rex looks at her sharply. Where? Inside the facility. She reads the signature carefully, parsing what the Force tells her about his state. He's already found Anakin. They're together. It hasn't gone wrong yet, but it will in. She is already moving toward the ramp. We need to go. Now. The walkways are worse than they look from the viewport. The lava river below runs 40 meters beneath the grating, close enough that the heat rising from it is a physical presence against the skin, close enough that she can feel it even through the Force, the raw geological energy of a planet in its own endless emergency, indifferent to the human drama being conducted on its surface. She moves fast, Rex behind her, Padme behind him, none of them speaking. The facility's interior opens around them as they pass through the main entrance, a high-ceiling space of dark metal and volcanic rock, designed for the industrial extraction of minerals that don't care about aesthetics. The walls run with condensed heat, the air tastes of sulfur and something metallic underneath it, that is not from the planet. She hears voices. They find them on the main observation platform. A wide space, open on one side to the lava river below, with control panels for the mining operations along the interior wall. high enough to see the full sweep of the facility's exterior, the network of walkways, and the burning landscape beyond. Obi-Wan stands near the interior wall. Anakin stands near the open edge. They are not fighting, not yet. They are doing the thing that happens before fighting, which is worse in some ways. The conversation that has already started going wrong. The words that are being said in the specific tone of two people who have moved past the point where the words are really the point. Obi-Wan sees them first. His expression moves through several things very quickly. Relief at Padme, confusion at Rex, and then, when his eyes reach Ahsoka, something she wasn't expecting. Recognition. Not of her face. She is 17. She looks exactly as he last saw her. But of something in her bearing, something in the way she holds herself. Something that the Force carries about her that is apparently legible to a Jedi Master who has spent enough years reading people through it. He knows something is different. He doesn't know what. He files it. Anakin turns. She has been preparing herself for this moment since the elevator on the tribunal. She has spent every hour of hyperspace transit building the scaffolding for it in her mind. The emotional architecture that would let her look at him and not show everything she is feeling, not collapse the distance between them with the weight of 30 years of grief for what he became. She was not adequately prepared. He looks like Anakin. He looks exactly like Anakin. Young, tall, the scar above his eye, the mechanical hand at his side. The blue eyes that she has loved since she was 14, in the specific way that a person loves the first adult who treats them like they are worth something. He looks like her master. He looks like the man who taught her everything she knows about fighting, and a great deal of what she knows about loyalty. His eyes are wrong. Not yellow, not yet, or perhaps just barely, the edge of it, the amber tinge that happens when the dark side is close enough to the surface to color the light. But wrong in a way that does not require color to communicate. The wrongness is in what is absent, the warmth that was always there regardless of his mood, the specific quality of his attention that made you feel like the most important thing in whatever room you shared. It is not there. What is there instead is something cold and certain, and looking at her from very far away. Ahsoka, he says, her name and his voice. The same voice she has to work very hard for a moment. Sky Guy, she says. Something flickers. The word, the stupid nickname she gave him when she was 14 and brash and trying to get a reaction. The nickname he pretended to hate for years and used as shorthand for a relationship she has never been able to fully name. Lands in him, and something that is almost the original Anakin surfaces in his face for half a second before whatever replaced it pulls it back under. You shouldn't be here, he says. I know. She takes one step toward him. Slow, deliberate, hands open. I'm here anyway. What I'm doing, he stops. Restarts. The Jedi were going to betray the Chancellor. They conspired against the Republic. What happened tonight was necessary, she says, flatly, not agreeing, reflecting, giving him the word back in her own voice so he can hear what it sounds like coming from outside himself. He looks at her. You don't believe that, she says. I do. No. She takes another step. She is 10 meters from him now, close enough to see the detail of his face, close enough to feel the Force signature of him with a clarity that hurts. You're saying it. There's a difference. I know the difference with you, Anakin. I've known the difference since I was 14 years old, and you were doing it in briefings when you thought Obi-Wan wasn't watching. Something moves in him. Not agreement, not yet. But she feels the resistance to her in him, which is different from indifference. You don't resist what doesn't reach you. Padme, Obi-Wan says quietly from behind her. Padme has moved without anyone stopping her, crossed the platform with the particular Padme quality of moving toward things that frighten her, because that is simply what she does. And she is standing 5 meters from Anakin now, and he is looking at her, and for a moment, just a moment, the cold thing recedes, and he is just a man looking at his wife. Ani, Padme says. The name lands in him like a stone into still water. He says nothing. I'm not leaving, she says. Whatever you're going to tell me to do, I'm not leaving this platform without you. The lava river below them runs its slow burning course. The facility hums around them with the indifferent machinery of extraction. The heat presses against all of them equally, not caring who anyone is or what they've decided. Anakin looks at Padme. He looks at Ahsoka. He looks briefly at Obi-Wan. And that look has something different in it, something older, some accumulated ledger of the years between them being consulted in real time. Then he looks back at the lava river. "You don't know what I've done," he says. His voice has changed. The cold certainty has cracked slightly at the edges. What is underneath it is worse. In some ways, the specific quality of a man who has done something irreversible and is just beginning, to understand the shape of it. "No," Ahsoka says. "Tell me." The word hits like she intended it to, like an open hand, not a fist, not an accusation. A door. He stands at the edge of the platform above the burning river, and he is silent for a long time. And then, very quietly, he begins to talk. He talks for a long time, not in the way someone talks when they are confessing, not with the particular release of it, the unburdening. He talks the way someone talks when they are still defending, when the words are both an admission and a wall at the same time, when they are trying to hold two incompatible things together through the sheer force of saying them out loud often enough. He tells them about the visions, Padme dying in childbirth, screaming in the dark of a room he couldn't reach. The same vision every night, in the specific recurring texture of a Force premonition that he has learned across years to distinguish from ordinary nightmares. He tells them how it felt to watch it happen over and over in the dark, behind his eyes, and wake up reaching for her, and find her there, and know with complete certainty that the finding her there was temporary. He tells them what Palpatine offered. He says the name without flinching, which tells Ahsoka more than anything else he says. There is no guilt in the saying of it. The guilt is elsewhere, spread across the other things, the temple, the names he does not say but that she can feel as absences in the Force around him, the specific silence where thousands of Jedi used to be. He does not say he was wrong, not yet, but he is here, standing above a burning river on a burning world, talking to the people he loves, which means some part of him has already moved away from the position that what he did was simply right. Ahsoka stands very still and listens to all of it. When he finishes, the silence holds for a moment. Then Obi-Wan says, "Anakin." "Don't," Anakin says, immediately. The word comes out with a force that is not quite anger but is adjacent to it, the specific heat of a man who knows exactly what the next sentence was going to be and cannot receive it right now. "Whatever you're going to say, don't." Obi-Wan closes his mouth. Ahsoka looks at him across the platform, and the look she gives him is, "Not yet, not you, let me." She does not know if he reads it correctly. She does not have time to check. She takes 3 more steps toward Anakin. She is close now, 5 meters, 4. Close enough that the wrongness in his Force signature is a detailed thing rather than a general impression. Close enough that she can feel the specific architecture of what Palpatine built in him, the way the dark side has been laid over his natural presence, like a second structure on top of the first. The original is still there. She can feel it clearly. She can also feel how much it costs him to maintain both at once. "Can I tell you something?" she says. He looks at her, wary, the wariness of someone who trusts her enough to be afraid of what she might say. "You told me once," she continues, "that the duty of a Jedi is to protect people who can't protect themselves. You were debriefing me after Christophsis. I'd made a decision on my own that went badly, and you were explaining why the chain of command exists." A pause. "You were furious with me, but you said it like you believed it completely, like it was the thing you built everything on." He is watching her. The amber at the edge of his eyes has not deepened. She takes this as information. "The visions of Padme," she says. "Every decision you made after those visions started, you made them to protect her, to protect the children." She gestures fractionally toward Padme, who is standing very still to Ahsoka's left. "That instinct is not wrong, Anakin. That impulse. It's not the dark side. It's you. It has always been you." "Ahsoka." His voice has a warning in it. "I'm not finished." She holds his gaze. "Palpatine found that impulse, and he put a frame around it. He let you keep the instinct, the love, the protectiveness, and he replaced the framework. He took the thing that makes you Anakin Skywalker, and he used it to make you into something else. And I need you to understand the distinction because the thing he used is not the problem. The frame he put around it is." Something happens in his face. A microsecond of something that might be the beginning of a crack, and then the cold thing surges back and his jaw tightens, and he looks away from her toward the lava river. "He saved Padme," Anakin says. "The dark side has the power to—" "She's standing behind me," Ahsoka says. He goes absolutely still. She's standing right behind me, Anakin. She came here on her own. She is alive and she is here, and she came because she was not willing to let you stand on this platform alone. She pauses. Whatever Palpatine told you about what you needed to do to save her, she is alive right now, in this moment, without any of it. He turns from the lava river. He looks at Padme. She is looking back at him with an expression that does not flinch from anything, not from the amber in his eyes, or the weight of what he has done, or the particular quality of grief that is visible in him underneath everything else. She is looking at him the way she has always looked at him, which is directly, which is completely, which is with the specific attention of someone who has decided that this person is worth her full and undivided seeing. Ani, she says, quietly, come back. He breaks. Not all at once, not dramatically. It happens the way something under enormous sustained pressure gives way. Not an explosion, but a settling, a sudden reorganization of the internal structure into something that can no longer maintain its previous shape. He makes a sound that Ahsoka has never heard from him. Low, compressed, the sound of someone who has been holding something for so long that the holding has become unconscious, and the release of it is indistinguishable from pain. He crosses the platform to Padme in 4 strides, and she meets him, and his arms go around her, and he puts his face against her hair, and the sound he makes into her shoulder is the sound of Anakin Skywalker, and not the sound of anything else. Not the construct Palpatine built, not the dark side certainty, not the cold distance she felt when she looked at his eyes. Just him. Obi-Wan looks at Ahsoka. His expression is not the expression of a Jedi Master evaluating a situation. It is the expression of a man who has been terrified in a way he did not fully admit even to himself, and is processing the recession of that terror. She looks back at him. How? He says, very quietly. Later, she says, right now we have a problem. She gives them 4 minutes. She watches Anakin hold his wife, and she feels the dark side architecture in him shifting, losing its coherence, the way a structure loses integrity when the load-bearing element is removed. And she is careful with herself in this moment, careful not to assume that the shift is permanent, that the fight is over, that the moment on the platform is the ending rather than the beginning of something much longer and harder. Then she crosses to them. Anakin, she says gently, I need you to listen to me. He pulls back from Padme slightly. His eyes are blue, fully, completely blue. She lets herself feel the relief of it for exactly 2 seconds. Palpatine knows where you are, she says. When you don't report back, he'll send someone. We have a window, not a long one, to be somewhere he isn't looking when that happens. Anakin's expression hardens. Not with cold this time, with the specific quality of a man recalibrating his understanding of someone he trusted. He sent me here, he says. Yes, he sent me here, and he knows the location, and when I don't, he stops. The geometry of it is assembling itself in his face. He never intended for me to leave. That's what I believe, she says carefully. I can't know it with certainty. But I've spent 30 years turning it over, and I've come to believe he saw you as a tool, the weapon he needed to bring what he was building into being. And men like Palpatine don't let their instruments outlive their purpose. A pause. Get us to the shuttle, Anakin. We can discuss the geometry of his motives when we aren't standing on a burning planet. Rex, who has been standing near the entrance with his blaster in his silence, says, How long do we have? Ahsoka reaches through the Force outward, past the facility, past the platform, past the burning surface of the planet, scanning the space above them for the particular signature of military ships dropping out of hyperspace. Long enough, she says. Not much longer than that. Obi-Wan steps forward. He looks at Anakin with the expression of someone who has been carrying a conversation for years and has decided to put it down differently than he planned. Whatever comes next, he says, we face it together, as we should have. He stops. Doesn't finish the sentence. The word always hangs in the space where he stopped, audible in its absence. Anakin looks at him. Between them, 30 years of partnership and the specific wreckage of the last 24 hours occupy the same space simultaneously. She does not know how they will carry that. She knows they will have to. She knows it will take longer than today. I need to tell you something, Anakin says to Obi-Wan. His voice has the careful quality of someone constructing a sentence around something that could cut them both. What I did tonight, I can't. There is no version of what I did tonight that I can explain to you. There's no argument I can make. I'm not going to try to make one. Obi-Wan is very still. I'm just telling you that I know, Anakin says. Whatever you think of me right now, I know. I know exactly what I did. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. The lava river runs below them. The facility hums. Then we start from there, Obi-Wan says. We start from exactly there. Ahsoka watches this and feels something in the Force around both of them shift. Not resolved, not healed, not anything close to finished, but oriented differently, pointed in a direction that is not toward the thing that almost consumed them both. It is enough for now. Then she feels it. Above Mustafar, dropping out of hyperspace with the distinctive mass shadow of a military vessel. Not one ship, 3. And aboard the lead ship, a presence in the Force so old and so dark and so patient that the planet beneath her feet seems to lean toward it the way dead things lean toward gravity. Palpatine is not sending someone. Palpatine is coming himself. We need to go, she says, right now. And the cold thing she felt at the edge of Anakin's eyes flickers back. Not the dark side, not this time. Recognition. The recognition of someone who has felt that presence in the Force before, who knows exactly what it means that it is here, who understands with his whole body what is coming. He's coming for me, Anakin says. Yes. Ahsoka says, and we are going to make sure he doesn't find you. She moves toward the exit. The others follow. Above them, through the volcanic rock and the burning sky, 3 ships fall toward Mustafar like stones dropped into fire. They don't make it to the shuttle. Ahsoka knows this the moment she steps back onto the walkway and feels the 3 ships above resolve into something more specific through the Force. Not hovering, not establishing orbit, descending. Fast. The kind of fast that means someone with absolute confidence in their own power and no interest in subtlety. Palpatine is not blockading Mustafar, he is landing on it. She does the calculation in 4 steps. The shuttle is on the landing platform. 90 meters of open walkway between here and there, exposed from above, no cover. 3 military vessels coming down with enough firepower to reduce the platform to slag before they reach the boarding ramp. Palpatine's Force presence pressing down through the atmosphere like a hand. New plan, she says, without stopping walking. Rex is immediately beside her. I'm listening. The platform is exposed. We can't reach the shuttle before they land. We need to split. You get Padme and Anakin to the lower maintenance level. There's an auxiliary exit on the lava side of the facility, an emergency egress from the mining operations. I felt it when we came in. She is moving as she talks, shepherding them back through the facility entrance, off the walkway into the interior. Get to the shuttle from below. Use the facility structure as cover. And you? Rex asks. She doesn't answer immediately. Obi-Wan does, from behind her. She's going to buy us time. She looks back at him. I'm buying us time, she confirms. The splitting happens in the main corridor, fast and without ceremony. Rex takes Padme's arm, not forcefully, the way of someone clearing a path, and moves toward the lower levels with the particular focused competence of a soldier who has been given a clear objective and a narrow window, and doesn't need anything else. Padme goes with him, but she looks back at Anakin. Anakin looks at Ahsoka. I should be the one to face him, he says. No, she says. He's here for me. If you go out there, he takes you back, she says. And everything we just did on that platform means nothing. You are not a bargaining chip, Anakin. You are not bait. Get to the shuttle. She holds his gaze. I will be right behind you. That's a promise. He searches her face for something. She doesn't know what he finds. He goes. Obi-Wan stays. She turns to look at him, and he is already looking at her with the expression of a man who has made a decision and does not intend to be argued out of it. You're not staying, she says. I think we both know I am, he says pleasantly. Obi-Wan, Ahsoka. He says her name with the specific gentle immovability that she spent 4 years as a Padawan running directly into. I don't know what you are, or where you've come from, or how you knew what you knew on that platform. But I know what's about to walk through that door, and I know that you, whatever you are, should not face it alone. She looks at him. This man who trained Anakin, who will spend 20 years on a desert planet, watching a boy grow into his father's echo and not intervening in carrying that choice every day, who she has never been able to decide whether she loves or resents more. You're going to get hurt, she says. Probably, he agrees. She ignites her lightsabers. He ignites his. The blue light of them fills the corridor, and she thinks, despite everything, that there is something clarifying about the sound of it, the specific hum of a lightsaber in a dark space, the sound that has meant I am here, and I will not move for as long as she can remember. Don't engage unless you have to, she tells him. Read him. Watch his form. He'll use an aggressive style, and he'll use lightning, and he'll talk while he fights. He always talks. It's how he measures your state. Don't respond to the talking. Obi-Wan looks at her sideways. You've fought him before. Not me exactly, she says. He absorbs this with the equanimity of a man who has accepted that today contains more impossible things than his framework can fully process, and has decided to process them later. The main entrance at the far end of the corridor opens. Palpatine walks in alone. This is the first thing that surprises her. No red guards, no escort. Just the Chancellor of the Galactic Republic, in his dark robes, moving through the entrance of a Mustafar mining facility as if he is arriving for a scheduled appointment. His hands are folded inside his sleeves. His face carries the expression she has seen in recordings 100 times. The grandfatherly disappointment of a man who expected better and has arrived to correct the situation personally. She has never been this close to him. She has felt his presence in the Force from a distance. That cold, vast, ancient darkness accumulated across decades of deliberate Sith immersion. The weight of a philosophy of suffering worn like a second skeleton. From a distance it is enormous and oppressive. Up close, in the same corridor, it is something different. It is specific. It is pointed at her. His eyes find her face, and she feels the Force perception in them. Old, surgical, precise, move across her the way a scanner moves across a surface, reading the topography of what she is. She keeps herself still under it. She keeps her presence in the Force exactly what it is. Not concealed, she doesn't have the technique for that and wouldn't waste time on it anyway. But steady, a stone in the current. He stops walking. Ahsoka Tano, he says. His voice in person carries a resonance that recordings don't capture. The specific quality of a voice that has learned to use sound itself as an instrument of persuasion. Anakin's lost apprentice. How extraordinary. She says nothing. You feel different, he continues. His head tilts slightly. You feel much older than you look. How very curious. A pause. Something moves behind his eyes. The Force works in ways that even I occasionally find surprising. I'm not here for a conversation, she says. No, he agrees. You're here to delay me. You believe that if you occupy my attention for long enough, the others will escape. He says this without heat, without accusation, with the mild tone of someone describing a weather pattern. It's a reasonable plan. It won't work, but it's reasonable. He takes his hands out of his sleeves. She moves first. She goes low and fast, the reverse grip style that she has used since she was a Padawan. Both blades angled in the particular configuration that makes her attack pattern asymmetric and therefore harder to calibrate a defense against. She covers the 15 meters between them in under 2 seconds. He doesn't draw a lightsaber. He meets her first blade with a burst of Force energy. Not telekinesis, something more refined, a directional push so precisely targeted that it hits her wrist rather than her body, redirecting rather than blocking. Her strike goes wide. She rolls past him, comes up on his left side, sweeps low with her shoto. He steps over it. Barely, not with Force speed, just footwork. Old, immaculate footwork, the kind built over decades of a body learning to be exactly where it needs to be. He is not alarmed. This is the most frightening thing about him. She attacks again, this time in combination, primary blade high, shoto cutting across his center, Force push targeted at his leading foot to disrupt his base. The combination is something she developed in years of fighting Inquisitors, designed to present too many simultaneous threats for a purely technical defense to cover. He covers it. Lightning erupts from his right hand mid-combination, timed to catch her in the moment of maximum extension. She crosses both blades in front of her and takes the strike on the lightsaber energy. The lightning chains across both blades, and the feedback runs up her arms, and she absorbs it the way she has learned to absorb it, not fighting the electricity but moving with it, letting the Force run it through her and out. She has done this before. She has practice he doesn't know she has. The surprise flickers in his face, small. She catches it. She presses before he can recalibrate. Obi-Wan engages from the right. His Soresu is exactly what she told him it would be. Conservative, impenetrable, the perfect defensive form, creating a second problem that occupies the other half of Palpatine's attention. It is not designed to wound or defeat. It is designed to exist, to present a continuous requirement for management, to be the thing that means Palpatine cannot commit fully to either of them. It works. For a while, she feels Rex through the Force, distant, moving. They're almost to the egress. Almost. She ducks under a redirected lightning strike that hits the corridor wall and leaves a black scar in the metal. Comes up inside Palpatine's reach, which is a dangerous place to be and also the safest one, because his lightning requires extension, because his lightsaber is still inside his sleeve, because up close he is relying on force pushes and precise footwork, and she is inside the range of both. She hits him with force pressure, not a push, a sustained compression from 3 directions simultaneously. The technique that requires holding multiple force contacts at once, and that she spent years developing after Order 66, when she had nothing but time and the pressing need to understand how to fight something she couldn't beat. He staggers, 1 step. The grandfatherly expression is completely gone. What is underneath it is not fury. It is something colder than fury, something that has not been surprised in a very long time, and is now running the particular calculus of a mind that treats every variable, including its own surprise, as tactical information. "Who taught you that?" he says. "You did," she says. "In a future, you won't be building." She feels the shuttle lift off below the facility. The weight of it leaving the surface registers through the Force like a breath released. Rex, Padme, Anakin, Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is still in the corridor. She looks at him across the space between them. He is breathing hard, a burn across his left forearm, maintaining his position with the absolute discipline of Soresu, even as the form costs him. She looks back at Palpatine. He is watching her with the expression of a man who has finished his calculation. The lightning he releases is not targeted. It fills the corridor. She throws everything she has into a force barrier, both hands forward, every reserve she can reach, the barrier expanding outward from her center in a hemisphere that catches the leading edge of the strike and holds. Barely, the electricity crawling across its surface like something looking for a way in. It holds. Her nose is bleeding. She doesn't remember when that started. "Go," she says to Obi-Wan, through her teeth, holding the barrier with everything. "The shuttle. Go." "Ahsoka, I know what I'm doing." She feels the shuttle above, hovering, waiting, Rex holding position in defiance of every tactical instinct he has because he will not leave without her. Tell Rex 20 seconds. She feels Obi-Wan make the decision, feels him move. She drops the barrier. She throws herself sideways as the lightning surges forward, hitting the wall where she was, blowing a section of the corridor wall into the facility's interior. She is already moving, not toward the exit, not directly, but along the wall, using the corridor's geometry, making herself a moving problem rather than a fixed one. Palpatine tracks her. She reaches the maintenance shaft she identified when they first entered the building, drops into it without looking, falls 3 levels, catches herself 4 meters from the bottom, momentum converted through the Force into a horizontal sprint. The egress is ahead. The burning sky of Mustafar opens around her as she runs through it, and above her, against the red-orange atmospheric glow, the diplomatic shuttle is hovering 20 meters off the surface, with its boarding ramp open like an outstretched hand. She jumps. The Force carries her the last 5 meters. Rex has them moving before her feet touch the ramp. The boarding ramp seals behind her. She hits the deck on her hands and knees, catches herself, gets up. Her arms are still running with the residual feedback of the Force barrier, a deep muscular tremor that she knows from experience will take an hour to fully subside. Her nose has stopped bleeding. She wipes the back of her hand across her face and moves to the cockpit without stopping to assess anything else. Rex has them climbing hard. The shuttle's engines are at maximum, the airframe vibrating with the effort of punching through Mustafar's lower atmosphere at a speed it was not designed to sustain. Through the viewport, the surface falls away beneath them, the facility shrinking, the lava rivers reducing to dark lines against orange, the whole burning geography of the planet becoming abstract as they climb. 3 military ships are visible. 2 are moving to intercept. The third is on the surface. Palpatine's transport, she understands. He came down in it. He is still in the facility below, and she spares 1 moment of Force perception downward, finds him there, finds the cold ancient darkness of him contained within those walls, and not currently rising. He is letting them go. This lands in her chest with a specific weight. He's not pursuing, Obi-Wan says from the crew cabin. He felt it too. He's calculating, she says. She slides into the co-pilot's seat and pulls up the intercept projections for the two military ships closing on their position. He lost Anakin tonight. He didn't lose the Empire. He still has the clones, the Senate, the structure. He's deciding whether we're worth the exposure of a direct engagement or whether we're more useful as loose ends he can attribute to confusion and attrition. He'll choose the latter, Anakin says. She turns. He is standing in the cockpit doorway, Padme beside him. His voice is steady, the blue of his eyes is complete and unqualified. He always chooses patience over confrontation when confrontation costs him something. Anakin continues, I watched him operate for 3 years. He doesn't spend resources on problems he can defer. A pause. We're a problem he's going to defer. Rex doesn't look away from the viewport. For how long? Long enough, Ahsoka says. If we're smart. She pulls up the navigation display. The two intercept ships are military, Venator class, running standard Republic transponders. They are closing, but not yet in weapons range. She has a window, not a comfortable one, but a window. Jump coordinates, Rex says. Working on it. She does not enter the coordinates she knows. This is a decision she makes in the 30 seconds, while Rex holds their climb angle, and the intercept ships close another 1,000 kilometers, and the navigation computer cycles through its calculations. She knows the unknown regions, has known them in the life that no longer exists, with the specific intimacy of someone who spent years moving through them in deliberate exile. She knows which systems are unmapped and which only appear unmapped. She knows where the Empire will not look, because it does not know to look there. But she does not enter those coordinates yet. She enters a short jump, a single hyperspace transit that will take them clear of Mustafar's gravity well and the intercept ship's range and deposit them in the unremarkable stretch of space between systems where nothing is and nothing monitors. Somewhere to breathe, somewhere to have the conversation they have not had yet. That's not a destination, Rex says, reading the coordinates. It's a pause, she says. Jump. He jumps. Hyperspace is the same as it always is. The white tunnel, the clean noise of between, the specific quality of stillness that comes from moving faster than consequence. For a moment, none of them speak. Then, Padme sits down on the crew bench and puts both hands flat on her knees, and exhales. A long, controlled breath that is the sound of someone who has been managing their fear with extraordinary professionalism for the last several hours, and is allowing themselves in this exact moment of relative safety to acknowledge what it cost. Anakin sits beside her. He takes one of her hands. She looks at their joined hands and then at his face, and something passes between them that Ahsoka does not look at directly, because it is theirs. Obi-Wan leans against the cockpit doorframe and looks at Ahsoka. Now, he says quietly. Who are you, she tells them. Not everything, not the 30 years of it, not every detail of the life she carried here, but the shape of it, the essential truth of it. She tells them about waking up in her bunk on the tribunal with decades of memory pressing into her skull. She tells them about Order 66, the original one, the one that happened in the timeline she came from, the one that killed Jedi across 100 worlds while she survived on a cold moon and didn't understand what she was feeling until later. She tells them what the Empire looked like, what Anakin became inside it. She does not spare them the detail. She has spent 30 years carrying it, and she has learned that the gentle version of the truth is its own kind of cruelty. It lets people build the wrong picture, and then they are not prepared for the right one. Anakin listens to all of it without moving. When she finishes, he is quiet for a long time. Darth Vader, he says finally, tasting the name, holding it away from himself the way you hold something that might still be hot. Yes, for 20 years. Yes, he looks at the floor of the shuttle cabin. His mechanical hand opens and closes once. Did you ever? He stops. Starts again. In that timeline, did we ever? No, she says, simply. Honestly, we never saw each other again after I left the Order. Not really. Not as ourselves. He absorbs this. I'm sorry, he says. It comes out rough. The specific texture of an apology that knows it is not adequate and says itself anyway because the alternative is silence. For what he did, what I would have. Anakin, she says. He looks up. You didn't, she says. That's the whole point. You didn't. Obi-Wan asks the question she has been expecting. The children, he says. His voice is careful in the way of someone moving through a space they don't fully have the map for. You said Padme. He pauses, looks at Padme. The calculation moves through his face, arriving at the same place it arrived for Ahsoka on the doorstep of the Senate apartment. You knew. Padme meets his gaze without apology. Yes. How long? Long enough. Obi-Wan looks at Anakin. Anakin looks back at him. The particular quality of this look, two men who have been everything to each other recalibrating around a secret that changes the geometry of their history, is something she does not try to translate into simpler terms. She lets it exist as what it is. A boy and a girl, Ahsoka says quietly. In the other timeline they survived, they were separated and hidden, and they grew up not knowing each other. They both became extraordinary. She pauses. In this one, they can grow up together. That's... She stops, finds the right word. That's not nothing. Padme's hand moves to her stomach. This time, she doesn't stop herself. Obi-Wan watches this, and something in his face reorganizes itself permanently. Rex drops them out of hyperspace in the empty stretch she targeted. No stars of consequence, no traffic, no signals on any frequency. Just the deep, indifferent quiet of space between places, which is its own kind of sanctuary. He comes back from the cockpit and stands in the cabin doorway and looks at all of them. The Jedi Master, the fallen Jedi who didn't fall this time, the Senator, the former Padawan who came back from a future that isn't going to happen. And his expression is the expression of a soldier who has completed an objective and is waiting for the next one. Where do we actually go? He asks. Ahsoka looks at the viewport, at the stars outside it, fixed and cold and full of everything that has not happened yet. I know places in the unknown regions, she says. Systems that don't appear on standard charts. Far enough from Coruscant that the Empire's reach will take years to extend there. She looks at each of them in turn. We take the shuttle. We find somewhere to land that isn't on any map Palpatine has. And we start building something from there. Building what? Obi-Wan asks. Something that will outlast him, she says. Something patient. Something he won't see coming because it doesn't look like what he's afraid of yet. The word rebellion does not need to be said. It is present in the space between all of them, audible in the way that things are audible when everyone in a room is thinking the same thing. Rex nods once. He goes back to the cockpit. They rig the Nubian cruiser, the ship that brought Padme to Mustafar in the original timeline, still sitting on the platform below when they left, on a remote descent trajectory before they jump. Rex handles the navigation of it from the shuttle's console, setting it on a path that will take it into the upper lava fields at a speed that leaves nothing worth examining. No bodies, no transponder, no evidence of survival. She watches the cruiser's signal disappear from the console. Officially, they are dead. Padme Amidala, dead on Mustafar, Anakin Skywalker, fallen and lost. Ahsoka Tano, missing and unaccounted for. Rex, deserter and fugitive. Obi-Wan Kenobi lost to the purge like all the rest. The Empire will build its stories around these absences. She knows this. She knows how the stories go. She has read the Imperial records in the life that no longer exists, and seen what Palpatine made of the gaps. He is very good at filling gaps with the narrative he needs. Let him fill this one. Let him build his empire on the architecture of their deaths. They will be building something else. Before Rex jumps, Anakin comes to stand beside her at the viewport. He doesn't say anything for a moment. Neither does she. They look at the stars together in the particular silence of two people who have known each other long enough to not need to fill quiet with noise. Snips, he says. The nickname, her name in his voice. The one he gave her when she was 14 and he was trying to be annoyed by her and failing. She has not heard it in 30 years. She has heard it in memory. In the specific way certain sounds live permanently in the ear, long after the source of them is gone. She has to look at the viewport for a moment. Yeah, she says. Thank you, he says, for coming back. I didn't have a choice, she says. You were always worth coming back for. He is quiet. The temple, he stops. The weight of it is there in his voice, the full specific weight of what cannot be undone, even in a rewritten timeline. The clones who died on the tribunal, the Jedi who died on 100 worlds while she was on the tribunal saving Rex, the things that Order 66 accomplished before she could reach far enough to stop it. I know, she says. It's not. I know, she says again, gently. It's not enough. It won't ever be enough. And you carry it. That's what you do now. You carry it, and you do the work. A pause. Starting tomorrow, today you come with us. He looks at her. She looks back. The stars outside the viewport are the same stars they have always been. Fixed. Patient. Completely indifferent to the question of whether the people looking at them deserve a second chance. She has decided that is not the stars' call to make. Rex's voice comes from the cockpit. Coordinates locked. Unknown regions. On your word, Ahsoka. She looks at the viewport one more time. At the stars. At the dark between them that is full of the future. Unwritten, uncharted, belonging to no one yet. Jump, she says. The stars stretch into light. The light holds. And somewhere in the clean white nothing of hyperspace, 5 people fly toward the dark together, pointed at the future, carrying the dead, choosing the living. That is not nothing. That is not nothing at all. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.